Hello, my name's Jemma, and sorry about the picture. It is my official work picture, and it's better than the one where I look a bit like Shrek. So this was chosen. So I do work with Dr Carroll down in Plymouth. I only work in the NHS, so I haven't received any monies from anyone else. I think we're supposed to tell people that. Just before we start, there's going to be 5 things that you hear me say a few times, so just to get those out there. So hopefully these are what you take home and remember. And they're to be honest, be open, be flexible, be prepared, but also be yourself. Because part of recruitment is about that human touch. All right. So, hopefully by the end of today you'll have a little bit of confidence in recruiting people to research. Who here has helped on research projects with recruiting specifically? So, that's good, about half. Excellent. So what I'd like you to do, if possible, is sort of in about 4 groups, so one here, one there, one on the corner and one here. Just have a little chat and just come up with a list and just tell me what are some of the obstacles that you found when recruiting people into research. So if we start over here, would you mind what's the main one that everyone come up with?
Actually, really interesting, knowledge of what's going on in research. There's very little there's not going on at your own trust.
Yeah. So information from other places. I can't write very well. Can you see it at the back? Okay. And from you guys over here?
We put length of visits and frequency of visits.
Okay.
We put lots of things.
So the visits themselves? Okay.
Well, we said travel, one of the things getting sense, but also clinical workload, really, general clinical workload.
So general logistics of every kind. Fair enough. And over there in the corner?
One of them was remembering to offer, even though you know it's there.
Yeah.
We've had patients that within Parkinson's that have refused to go on clinical trials because they're already taking so much medication.
Yeah, so sort of increase in load to them. Okay. So I did a little bit of a poll. So our office has about, say, 35 research practitioners of varying kinds, midwives, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, everybody. And the main 5 things that came out, or could be lumped into a few things, were these. So population. The one that everyone spoke about is, where are these people? How do we get involved to find these people? Well, they're not lining up outside our door, so where are they? Second one was the protocol. So whether that be the time of the visits, the inclusion-exclusion, but actually trying to fit what is a very varied life into a very strict set of parameters. And that was what a lot of people found to be a problem with recruitment. Third one, gatekeeping. Anyone have an idea? Everyone sort of aware what gatekeeping is? So research sits inside clinical care, but on the side. So you often find that having access to the clinicians, consultants, nurse practitioners can be a little bit hard, and they're also very worried about the people that they're supporting throughout their clinical care. Another one was patient choice, and the other one was perception of itself of research. Okay, so with all of these obstacles in mind, what I'd like you to do now is we're going to have a little bit of a case study. And what I'd like you to do is just have a look at these 3 people, and you're recruiting to a study, and just have a look and answer the 3 questions at the bottom. So if you are writing clinic notes, or if you're trying to screen clinic letters, you'll often find certain items that are written down. You'll find some things are a little bit more ambiguous. So who would like to let me know who is eligible? Beryl? Okay. So why is Beryl eligible?
She might have when in 2015 she was diagnosed.
Yeah, that's very good.
And it may often depend on the PRN medications that she has.
Yeah.
May not count as stable dose.
Yeah. So that's probably a conversation to have with Beryl and find out, has she been taking that morning Madapar? Has she not? Does she take it irregularly? Also, there's an opportunity to give someone the choice to actually say, well, I don't need it very often. I can stop it for the 8 weeks of the study. All right? So why is Nav not eligible? I hope Dr. Setti doesn't mind me using his name.
His diagnosis is over the time. Is it? He was diagnosed with at least less than 3 years. He was diagnosed in 2014.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. That's a typo. That should say 2016. Check your work. Be prepared. If you saw me this morning, you know that wasn't the case. So if, in theory, if he was diagnosed in 2016, and I have actually seen clinic letters where the diagnosis dates are completely different from 1 year to another. So imagine that was an incorrect clinic letter, and actually you've spoke to NAV, and they said, no, I was diagnosed in 2016. Definitely. Are they eligible now?
No.
Potential, might have to talk with him, weaning down his clonazepam. And if he wants to come off and then he's stable for, was it 4 weeks prior? If that, I don't know about the exact exclusion, but that might work.
Yeah. So again, look at what's flexible. The main thing is, people are giving a lot of their time and generosity, their bodies, everything, to be involved in their opportunity for research. Give them the choice. Not everyone's going to want to change their medication, but there are some, if that particularly is not working, and if I'm right, I think it's for REM disorder. Good. There are other medications available. So melatonin's one. Equally, I think for dyskinesias, sometimes things like amantadine is used. For some people, they might be happy to not use that. So again, be flexible. Have that open conversation with people and just see what they want to do. And what about Joe? Everyone's a little unsure. Is it the lack of the hone and yar not being written down? Yeah? Does everyone know what hone and yar is? Good. So the best thing I would do in this situation, me personally, is I would probably give Joe a call. Because we don't always see hone and yar written down by clinicians. I don't know how much it's got of use to a clinician. Lots of shaking heads.
It was used for certain trials.
Exactly.
So you do see it, but I suppose it depends if those trials are still active as to whether for you, whether you would see it in the notes or not.
I think it's time for yet another one of my many favourite rants. I think the hone and yar scale is totally useless in the vast majority of patients. I think it's really important that we try and move away from this because, for example, so to begin with, if you look, show me one patient who really, truly only has unilateral Parkinson's. If you look hard, if you examine them for long enough, how many are left? And then, let's just all do the pull test here in this room, right, and be blinded to the result of the other people, right? What's the concordance going to be? It's rubbish, And, how often do we actually see patients in stage 4 and 5 and would seriously consider including them in any trial? Come on, give me a break, So we really badly need to move away from seeing this as something which is of major relevance when it comes to selecting patients for the right trial. That's my rant of the day.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I think near enough every study, the inclusion-exclusion does include it.
Oh, totally.
Because it's such a standardised thing.
Of course, we've got to include it in our trial as well. It's just, it's something, it's a box we have to tick, right? But it's sort of nonsense.
So, as you say, they've been used for years. They may be a little outdated, but they are used. So you probably use them fairly regularly. You'll know what the different scorings are, even on the modified version. So by even reading what the clinician's written, you could probably guess that their hone and yar's about a 2. It's not good to guess, but what you're doing is not ruling that person out. You're not saying their hone and yar's definitely a 4. So there's a way of looking at notes pretty quickly and gauging. So if you've got an inclusion-exclusion of between 2, 1 and 3, 3 is normally a cut-off, and somebody is not mobilising very well, and they're at home, and they're at that stage, then you might well be putting them towards a lower part of that contact list. So it's just trying to find ways of keeping you able to screen large volumes of people in a short space of time. So it's very quick. So last thing is, who would you contact on that list? You can go with your previous answers or after all the discussion.
All of them?
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, you wouldn't leave anybody off. So even if they were taking the clonazepam, they had a diagnosis date that was a little bit dodgy, any of those, you would take the time to talk to them. And even if they're not particularly interested in that particular study, that's opening up a communication channel to them, even if it's providing information of the studies that you know are running elsewhere with you, or ones that are coming in the pipeline. Have you got any questions about?
Yes, there's one question. The question is, if these people are referred to the research team, does the research team have the ownership to change medications like the one you're talking about, changing clonazepam? Who's going to follow?
So actually, this is the reason I chose this one is something that did happen to us. We as a research team, as far as I'm aware, have no say in any clinical changes. But what we do have is you foster a good relationship with your clinical team, hopefully, or you are part of it, and you have an easy way to refer that person to come and be seen. What happened, actually, I think, was the nurse specialist arranged to visit that person in a research setting and actually had a full clinic with them. And then they decided how they wanted to proceed. So they didn't come onto the research trial at that point, but what that person did receive was an extra visit with their clinical specialist team, which actually changed an awful lot more for them than just that one medication. Okay. So, is it all black and white? That's the main thing. Personally, I think life's a very big grey area. And protocols are lovely and rigid. And they give you parameters, and they want to try and normalise everything. And really what you're doing in recruitment is to find all those little grey areas where you can try and offer that opportunity of whatever research study you are doing to as many people as you can find. So sometimes it's information giving. I think I spend probably about 40% of my time giving information to people about trials that are finished, trials that are in the pipeline, support networks, Parkinson's UK, the whole, as much information as I possibly can. Because it's not just about your research trial that you're doing there and then. It's about gaining a better support network for everyone. So looking at all the things that you're talking about, nobody really mentioned the main issue that I've come across, which is where you find people. Because we don't have a line of people outside our door. Some of these are a little bit easier to go through, and we'll pop back to them if we've got time. So what we did in Plymouth is, because at the moment it's mainly me that recruits to studies, which is quite hard, is we try to look at a way to try and support the rest of the team to be involved in recruitment. Because it's not the easiest thing to do, to pick up the phone and talk to someone you haven't met before. And one of the things I would hope that you could all do as PIs or clinicians is to work with your multidisciplinary team and to work out what we've come as is a screening tool. So this is what it looks like, and this is actually our one. I don't think you can see it though. Yeah, it looks a mess. Because, yeah, it is. It kind of splits into two, so it makes it a little bit easier. But that will help. So what you're trying to do is to establish with all the people who are involved in all your research studies, whatever they may be, your wider disciplinary team, where are these people? Do they come through referrals from your clinicians and other consultants? Are they self-referrals? Are they coming through from people phoning you up, which does occasionally happen? And then where does that name go? When you hear this name, Joe Bloggs, where does it go? Who's dealing with talking to Joe? Where do you put it? So we devised a very simple central database, which looks like this, which is a bit easier to see, I hope. Now, everyone's going to have it slightly differently. So we have a portfolio of neurology, it's not just Parkinson's, so it does include everything. But you're just putting on the basics. At any one time, you can click on the study that you want to see. You'll know how many people have been screened, how many people are on the study, who's waiting to be contacted. And it's about understanding the process that you need to go through for your screening for recruitment. So that will kind of make sense. A little bit? Not sure. So it may take a little bit of time, and somebody does often have to take ownership. So one person needs to be a bit like, right, okay, let's do this. Or can somebody work this out? But spend that time, no matter how long it takes, to work out that process. Because once you've got it right once, it will continue to work for you. Okay? So when you're going about your research and you've got this study you want to do, get your team together, just work out where are they coming from, where are they going to, how are you logging and recording them, and then how are you going to make sure that process is used by everybody. So ours looked very colourful. We're quite a colourful group of people. And people respond fairly well to colour that we notice. So we went for a very bright looking one. And hopefully we'll be able to see that with increased recruitment and not quite so much burden on 1 or 2 people. So that brings me to the second part of that, and the bit that people find the most worrying, I think, is actually having that telephone conversation with people, because I think about 95% of the recruitment is usually done by telephone. It can sometimes be done in clinics, but clinic time is very precious to people. And having that time taken up by having a research conversation that's full and in depth, you've got to weigh that balance up. So telephone screening, how many times has everyone had a conversation or been to training about communication? Yes, repeatedly probably. It always harks back to how well you can communicate with people. Also good GCP. You can't persuade people into taking part in research. And then just realising where your intention comes from. So our intention is not about hitting targets, gaining accrual, writing our publications. Our intention is to provide that opportunity to people, to get as many people understanding about research and to get that information out to them. And that's what will be translated when you're having that intent in that phone call. So back to this, which is still very hard to read. And really what it is, I don't expect you to read this, you're more than welcome to have it. But it's just about your approach to those telephones, or even in person, it doesn't matter. Put a smile on your face. Go in with the right reasons. And it was supposed to block out this side. So you went to the right side. But it hasn't. But it's just the way that I had to work out for people who are very unconfident on the phone. It's like, there's 3 things we're going to be doing. So our process changed to make sure we knew who was being pre-screened, who was on the phone call and who was coming in. But also it goes into detail about that part of that communication. So smile, make sure you're open, have conversations with people. I've had phone calls last 2 minutes because people just don't want to talk to you. I've also had ones that last well over an hour, which is actually quite good fun. And also, people remember that first point of contact. So pretty much everyone who's come into studies, even if I've not been on that actual clinic, will know me when I speak to them. And they always are quite nice. And they always make a mention of saying, oh, that person that spoke to me on the phone. And we've had people come back repeatedly because of the way that people are communicating with them. So I hope that kind of explains a little bit about recruitment. Don't be scared. It is not the easiest part. You'll be very busy. And I think, who was it who said they went through 900 and... It was Emily, wasn't it? She went through 900 and something patients, screening them to try and find her 130. That's about fair odds. So a little bit of a guidance is when I gave you that. It does take about 45 seconds to a minute to read each letter. And the more you do, the easier you'll find it. And you end up with a pile of maybes, about yay, hi, pile of definites, and about this much of no. But then you've got at least a pattern that you can work through. It's about finding your own process to make it easier to screen. Has anyone got any questions so far? No? Okay. So in summary, research, even though it tries to be lovely and black and white and have the parameters, it's not. There's grey areas everywhere. Read your protocol, you'll find wiggle room. Also, don't be afraid to ask medical monitors or your PI, which is, oh no, that might well be you. So you could ask yourselves or ask your medical monitors, because sometimes they don't always get it right. Sometimes you have to have a bit of a conversation with them using the knowledge you have as clinicians and asking them. No harm in asking a question. Be honest. If it's okay to say this one's not eligible for you, but don't worry. There will be something at some point for you if you're interested. Explain that not all research is for everybody. Not everyone wants to come in every week for an 8-hour PK day, having their bloods taken every 30 minutes and taking a medication with some fancy side effects. But there's lots of other ways to get involved, whether that's understanding lay reviews of protocols, having patient interest groups, doing an observational study once a year. There's so many varied opportunities out there. Know them all. Know your nearest trust one. Know the ones coming up 300 miles away. As much information as you can have is what you can impart to others. Be flexible. So work with the windows, work with the people, try and understand that you can order taxis. The mince pies do go down quite well this time of year, but chocolate biscuits the rest of the year, always pretty good. But be flexible, understand people's needs when they come to you. If they need to have somebody who's in the morning off, can you arrange a hotel closer to you? What is feasible with that sponsor to allow you to make it as easy for that person to access that opportunity? And lastly, not all research for everyone, but I do believe that there's something out there for everybody. It's just finding that right thing. Okay, that's about it, I'm afraid. Is that all right?